Now, let me give me your cliff notes of an overview of the law of attraction.
We are magnets. Our magnetism is set by our predominant focused thoughts. Whatever we focus on, whatever we choose to energize, whatever we continue to intend, we are going to reap. We are going to bring it to us. The universe was designed by God to assist us, to work for us, to work with us. And it is consistently and perpetually aligning itself to bring everything to us that will allow us to feel great, to fulfill our purpose, and to bring about the greater benefit and good for all mankind.
You know what's funny now that I think about?
But I want to go back to faith. We talked about faith earlier, and so we said that faith, faith is basically the economy of God. Faith, just like America used to be on the bartering system. Now we're on the cash system. Well, faith is God's cash system, and so it's just critical to a Christian to be able to understand and have a handle on what faith is. And you speak to that, and you talk about faith and the law of attraction. And so you want to take a shot at that to kind of help encourage people that are listening.
Faith is certainty. The path to faith, really, and we talk a lot about the images in your mind, and there's a lot of discussion about that. But the quickest route to faith is gratitude.
Yeah, I'd have to.
You want to get there in a heartbeat? Become truly grateful for everything at all times. Because here's what happens in gratitude, is that gratitude brings you in such close proximity to the source, to God. The closer you get to Him, the more that you begin to see the way that He sees, and that everything is just possibility. It's like any and everything is possible. But the thing, even if a person thinks that they come to some high pinnacle of faith, the only way they will ever stay there is through gratitude. You stop being grateful in the Bible where it talks about that. There's a process that follows ungratefulness, and it leads to unholiness, which really means to be distanced from God. You want to get to faith and not need an explanation? Become grateful. And it's funny, we don't use that word. We always say thankful. We don't use the word grateful. Grateful to me is just much more heartfelt, and I believe that a person has to have moments of gratefulness. I don't know when you turn it off, and my view of it is in that becomes the absolute purest form of prayer that you can have.
I agree.
Period.
I agree. But now, as to your direct question about faith, and I think that this is going to prove valuable to just countless believers. We often think that faith is a starting point to belief. But faith is belief. And we often, as believers, we have a very responsive image about faith. We think that faith is reactive. We think, and we are always waiting for God in faith to do something. But faith is creative. And that's where Jerry, as he states that word certainty, that is something that many believers can't even identify with through our conditioning. Because I can think of very few things that are certain as it pertains to church. Now, I don't say that with any animosity or malice at all. I love church. I serve church. But our faith, and this is what Christ was trying to get the disciples to see and understand, is that faith is not contingent upon anything except for what you hope for.
That's word. That's the record.
That is. And so what we really, really need to focus on for believers is you can't have faith or belief if you don't have hope. And maybe that's our greater issue. We've been such a hopeless people, waiting for something to live for, waiting for life to start, waiting for a reason to get off the side of the bed in the morning, that it's impossible to be certain of anything in that state of hopelessness or despair.
But think about it, though. Isn't it that sometimes in our environments that we've created, we give it to you 1 week, snatch it back from you the next. Give it to you, snatch it back. And it's like, you don't know if you're coming or going, am I right or wrong? And then what we get down to is this whole idea of grading ourselves. So, if you got it, you must be really holy. If you didn't get it, you're not living right. You need to be so. We take people through all these changes when, by and large, yeah, certainly, they will. You're going to reap, whatever your actions are. But we brought it all down to where we have made suffering a requirement. And then we really didn't deal with it in this writing, but there's another writing that I have, a message I have out there called Food, Clothing, and Shelter. And while these are the last 3 things that a believer should ever be concerned about, yet they're the things that we talk about the most. Even in all the messages, can't pay my bills, can't, pay me a new pair of shoes. I mean, we keep just lifting up this whole idea of lack, and which really, I believe, breaks down our ability to fellowship, because the response to lack in action when we're dealing person to person, organization to organization, is competition. The whole basis of competition is a belief that there is not enough to go around. I got to get it before you get it. If you got it, I can't have it. That whole idea. And that's how we deal with one another face to face. So if you get that nice new car, if he got it, right. Like they stopped making those cars all of a sudden. He got it first. But we have those lack, that sort of programming is built into our environment to have us to deal with one another that way. We go into life that way. And if you really understand it, even in the corporate world and the secular world, they talk a lot about competition. But if you really, really understand, there's nothing but abundance in the universe. God is not running out of anything. And my belief is, if there is something that we truly need, we really just have to have it, more will always be created just because of our intention to have it. Like we're going to run out of fuel. If we ever got to the point where we ran out of fuel, then we would have already evolved in technology to the point where we just don't need it anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's the way we have to understand that this thing is done. That there is always enough. So while we're running down in the prayer lines and doing this, then the whole reason we do that and we are moved by urgency in those moments is the belief that it's going to run out. I got to get there before it runs out. God is not running out of anything.